Yay.
The Indie Game Lunch Hour.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that was totally unexpected for me as well. Yeah, and for you guys to get like how I was contacting William because we are in the process of starting our own studio, and William is like well known outside of the US as well. So I was just contacting him regularly to talk about our new stuff, and then this invitation happened. So it was really cool and unexpected. Thank you, William. Yeah, that's the truth. This is uh, like just to start. Like I was born in the Soviet Union, right? Basically, so this is a story about like the Soviet Antarctic expedition, which was taking part in the time of Cold War era. All this race. It was a race between Soviet Union and United States to the South Pole, and this is a game about this particular time where they reached the South Pole on the huge, based on the tank chases, like huge machines, monster trucks. I would say like they were getting there in a couple of weeks to reach the South Pole, and this is the game which shows this part of the history, pretty well forgotten history. So true. Well, okay. So I started like as I mentioned, I was born in the Soviet Union. I spent half of my life probably living in Moscow, living and then living in Kiev, and I was film director. I was documentarist. I was a TV director, and it turns out that a couple of years ago I had to join to join the army, and I was a military documentarist at the same time. And after it, shortly after it, when I came back, I was like in this very point at your life, and you're just rethinking the whole thing, like what should I do next? And I was always passionate about video games all my life, since the childhood, and and I was thinking maybe I can try making this my new career. At that moment, I was almost 30, and I was like, Jesus, it scared me a lot, but I did my best. I tried so hard, and I was pretty much lucky that I was brought into the industry by one of the founders, one of the people who have created Stalker, the original Stalker series, and who created the Metro Exodus series. My master, I was a Padawan of Andrei Prokhorov, who was the one of the core founders of the Metro Exodus team. And I was lucky to start my career in there as cinematic designer. As for Eastern European game dev, everything, like, it was not very narrow experience, because we also were doing a lot of game designer stuff, level art stuff, and it was a great school overall. And after it, I was doing some solo projects for like game trailers, and then I was lucky to join Cyberpunk 2077 team, and specifically I worked on the Phantom Liberty DLC. Yeah, I was in the team of cinematic designers, the people who are behind creating basically all the dialogue scenes you can imagine in the game. So everything which is not exactly the combat and open world exploration, everything which touches the narrative part, and all the story sides, all the missions, we took our part. I was taking part in the main Golden Path quests and some side quests as well. Right. So when people speak about cinematic design, there are basically two different directions you can think of. One is what's directly involving the cutscenes, like QTS scenes, combat scenes within the game. So the scenes which are made with the engine tools, with the animation libraries you have. And the second huge part of cinematic design is something which is involving this game promotional trailers, which are done differently, which are done by huge big studios, and they use the animation pipelines, something you can expect from big studios which are creating like 3D animation. And this is sometimes confusing, because people who just want to start their path in and cinematics, sometimes they think that they are going to be to be this particular like directors for cinematics, but mostly in the industry you would expect that you would have to be game designer, technical specialist, all together with some cinematography skills to achieve this in-game cutscenes, because this is large area which requires a lot of technical experience on top of your like directing skills. Well, so most of the job you can find in the industry right now, I think, is mostly about creating cutscenes in the game. So this would require from you some solid knowledge of the engines. At least if you start with Unreal Engine, for example, you will build a solid foundation for yourself as a developer, because cinematic design involves a lot of visual scripting and combining the narrative, storytelling, like camera and stuff, animations, with the gameplay itself. So if you can imagine a Call of Duty title, for example, when you have this beautiful like film style cinematics, which are basically done by outsourced studios normally, and then before some combat starts, you have like in-game scenes. You have the scenes where your player is free to go around and talk to other characters. This is the part which would be done by you as cinematic designer. And for it as well, you have to sometimes incorporate knowledge in animation. Sometimes it would require like working with mocap, working with actors, and generally overall this is some mixture between technical skills, which would require a lot of cooperation, a lot of decision making, problem solving all the time, and this is really problem solving and multitasking, because you get thousands of different requests. You have to collaborate with a big team every day on hundreds of different situations to create a single scene, because while you're working on the scene, the art team can just move things around, and now your characters are going through some tables, some I don't know, so you have to address these issues all the time. So this really requires a lot of communication skills at all times. So if you're kind of more like if you don't like to talk a lot, this this would be a hard way for you. I'd say so. Yeah. Well, depending on the game size, I would say, and depending on the team size, mostly, it will require different stuff from you. Because if like this is AAA, it's a huge game, you will probably have somebody who is making breakdowns, animatics, some previews for you, and you will collaborate with them together. You don't need to have some solid painting skills or something. But if it's smaller team, there's a high chance that you be involved in many more other cool processes, and you'll have to at least like learn how to sketch stuff, do some very simple animatics to prove your concept, to show it off. You'll have to learn some stuff in level art, level design, lighting as well. So it would be a mixture of a huge amount of skills, and if as it goes in a larger scale game, your role would be more narrow, I would say so. Oh, so I was speaking about Unreal Engine, but of course it could be in Unity as well. But Unreal Engine is somewhat becoming more and more popular in the industry, and this and also it's quite similar to large proprietary engines you can imagine to work with. And for a smaller team as well, it incorporates a lot of great stuff and some great tools which are to create fine cinematics, fine cutscenes for indie games, which is very important because it's a combine. It's like industry combine, which can allow you to create with some additional tools. You will be able to record mocap on your or iPhone, and it will be a suitable quality for some indie game in certain cases. So this is why this tool is one of the preferred, I would say, for people who are going to look into industry or going to make their own games. And luckily, as time passes, we have more and more tools, which like AI tools, which allow us to create some inverse kinematic animations, to create some animatics, just I don't know, controlling characters by ourselves and recording this as an animation, which is which is a really cool option in some packages like iClone or something. It's not an advertising. No, I'm not getting paid for this. Just I don't have this solid preference. I worked with many engines, including like huge AAA engines, and mostly in general, if you compare timeline in Unreal, if you compare it to like Unity sequencer, Unity timeline, it will be pretty much the same. But integrations is something which is important for you, because you would like to you will have a lot of problems incorporating some like skeletal animations, like characters, into Unity mostly right now. With Unreal, luckily you have pretty more tools for doing that. And well, let's be honest, for smaller scale games, for mobile games, you don't need all this toolkit. You don't need to integrate like full skeletal animation mocap, or integrate some animations into the engine. Yeah, you will have much simpler tasks for it. So at this point, of course, Unreal is not the only one solution. You can do this in Unity as well, or in some other engines, and you will be fine to go. Yeah, that's totally correct. Well, in wider understanding of what cinematic design is, because basically, cinematic design is something which should support its directing. It's something which should support your narrative, but it can be done in very different ways. A visual novel, an anime story can be directed, and if you even have just the still shots, you'll have just 2D art. It still requires some part of direction in some form, yeah, to make when you combine 2D animations, when you combine some audio, you combine music, voiceover all together. It's still a cinematic design, yeah. All right. Great. I was just going to continue talking about cinematic design because it's, but you just catch me. You caught me right here. All right. So. Um, this is a game about where your character is a Soviet pilot who has survived a crash in the heart of Antarctica in the late 1950s, and your only ultimate goal is to survive these crazy Antarctic conditions. The crazy amount of cold, which comes up to 120 Fahrenheit or 80 Celsius, minus 80 Celsius, below zero. And in this game, you're operating this unique Soviet polar cruiser built on a basis of T-54 tank, which has a room inside for 8 people, and you're moving through the Antarctica. Your route is basically populated bases like 2,000 miles away, and you have to survive, and you have to get the way along with your crew free. Well, and in the game, you would explore different abandoned bases and different hidden bases, which were like secretly built during the Cold War. You will be able to explore the infamous Vostok station, which is located in the South Pole itself. And just a sneak peek, the game would be happening at the same time as this first Soviet launch of Yuri Gagarin, and you will have to do something with that. You will have to you'll have a quest which will require something from you. Uh, yeah, I think you can drop this one with a plane probably. Uh, I was not like I was really not prepared for this today. I must say this is a first. first ever public announcement of any kind, which I did. We were kind of hiding a bit, and what's cooking up. So, but I decided this is just the perfect spot because I'm from Ukraine. Our team is mostly from Ukraine, and some guys are from the United States, and we are looking forward to share our very unique experience, and we are super excited to see how Western audience is reacting to this, because this story as a whole is something we were it's like being Indiana Jones digging for some hidden secrets of the past, when you're looking through the documents which are like 16 years old, and you're trying to find some really cool stuff to make this historically realistic. And you're thinking how Western audience will take, how they will like it. And I'm super curious how this can go. Um, well, I can remember only U-boat game, and previously the Silent Hunter, if it comes to submarine stuff. Oh, David, yeah, it's a great game. I can can I drop a link to our Patreon maybe, or our Discord server? I don't know which would work best. All right, all right.
Question of the day.
Uh, Great question. Thank you. Most of the cinematic designers always require some input from programmers, and what involves the game toolkits for your work. So basically, like some combines like Unreal have most of the features you can expect, but when it comes to the further orchestration. You would require, especially if it goes to some branching cutscenes, QTA scenes, you'd require a lot of collaborating with some with your programmer or with the developer and blueprints to combine stuff together. So that's basically the input we always require for some specific specific tools, like calling the events during combat, making like decision making, like timers and all this kind of stuff. Did I answer the question? Yeah.
Yeah, my first question is actually an expansion upon the answer that he just gave. So as a programmer, like let's say I'm creating tools to be used by the cinematic designer, the ones you're describing right now. What can you speak a little more granularly about the exact tools that you would want to have in your utility belt to say like, okay, I would like to have this kind of moment. These are the most important things to definitely have.
Well, it really depends on the task and the genre. Because, for example, if you go to the games with branching cutscenes, or like the huge games like Cyberpunk, which by design have player movement, which is not limited by just the camera, because we can speak about two types of cutscenes. When you have the camera and you limit the player, so he's basically sitting and watching Netflix, while he's playing. And second type of game design is something you can expect from Witcher or Cyberpunk, where the player can go everywhere. So you, as cinematic designer, in certain cases, must secure all the possible ways the player can break the game. If the player follows the character, this most anticipated type of scenes, when you have to follow someone talking. In these cases, you will require a lot of integration with some specific animation, like securing animation situations, securing the stuff when player can just start looting and, I don't know, go away during the cutscene, and there you would require some help from your friendly game designer. For me, as for cinematic designer, most important is having these synchronization tools for audio and video, and working with some IK animations, for example, when something can happen during the scene, and this can affect movement of the characters. This for me, this was always the complicated spot, and I requested some help from our programmers.
All right, that's awesome. So yeah. So you want the ability to for two different cinematic modes, moving the camera, like all of the camera potential motions, and the player stands still. But then in some cases, you need the ability for the players to move and some kind of system to integrate for that. Then
Yeah, I'll also add just very shortly, very briefly, that the most important thing is calling the events, like anime events, VFX, sound at the same time while you're playing the cutscene and watching it and testing it. So calling these events and this communication with the code is one of the most important probably tools you can like aid with as a programmer.
all right, so event-driven tools.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go forward. So like as I mentioned before, like in Metro, in Eastern European, probably in Europe, some of European games, your role as cinematic designer could be not that narrow as in high, like huge companies and huge production cycles, like Ubisoft or Somber. So you probably you will have some opportunity to work with level art, work with lighting design. Uh, and yeah, so for for bigger companies, you would probably doing your own stuff, and then that's it. Mhm. Well, you can shortly describe this as a working as a script writer working with a film director altogether. So a narrative designer, well, depending on the game, of course, but mostly I address myself narrative designer as a script writer. And you know why film directors are not, always not the best fit for cinematic design? Just purely, I didn't see any film directors directing mock-up in my career at all, because film directors, they work they have their own vision, and they don't work in this huge amount of iterations, and iterations are the key cornerstone for them when they come to game design, because you have to iterate thousands of times. So you can work on one scene for several months, for several years. You can work like 2 years on one scene, or some scenes simultaneously, but you will just develop it from scratch and change it like 1,000 times. And working with narrative designer there makes you you basically you must collaborate, because it's an evolving structure. So as narrative designer, he can change narratives, can change some design could change in the process, and you have to adjust. And this is the most complicated, the most stressful actually part of our job, because we have to adjust all the time till the end, until the like final stages of making the game. You adjust, you change something. If you have directed the scene in some way, and then the whole scene can change, because dialogues are changing, and narrative designer comes to you and says, "Oh, sorry, we have to cut half of it, and we just have to make it differently." And you're still thinking how to get out of this together. Yeah, you just have to understand that this is your way of this is the way, simply quoting Mandalorian. So this is the way. If you try making a cutscene or cinematic for a game, and you'll think that okay, I'll do a great job right now. I'll push the limits, and this is how it will be. You will receive a lot of stress later, because things would go wrong. Things always go wrong. Everything changes. Everything requires new iterations, edits. So always think about this as an evolving structure, evolving storytelling, not as a final finished product you will be able to do it just from scratch. Right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So as a cinematic designer, you'll be working on a team trying to make sure that you're telling the right story that will be written by presumably a team of writers. What is your ideal starting point in the documentation and directive that you're receiving from the people who are managing the overall narrative versus what you are handling and just conveying a cinematic moment properly? Like, what's your best starting documentation? What does that look like?
Let's firstly say that there's never a proper story. Everything you make you cannot you cannot just say this is exactly the proper story, the only way. There are multiple ways of telling the story. So this is the beauty probably and the art of the creating some attractive storytelling that nobody can value this exactly. There always be people who like and dislike what's going to be in the result. And technically speaking, when coming to the documentation, well, I would say there are different forms and different standard forms of documentation, like game script, like dialogues and stuff, which are basically more or less the same as you would if you Google on the first page, like how these scripts for movies are written, pretty much the same. When it comes to like branching structures, we work with artists, we work with discuss stuff in the same way using some mind maps and Miro, so we're just understanding this the logic of the scene, but basically we use pretty much the same standard documentation. But what's probably most important is that you would have to this is a game of choices. So creating a good trailer, creating a good cinematics is always coming to the editing process of throwing out what's useless, what's not important, and choosing what's most important, most attractive, and works best for your game. The strong narrative can it's really important. I would say it's a very low chance that even a great cinematic designer can create a beautiful like a cool narrative which will engage players if the narrative design with the basis would be poor, really. So I would only recommend to have narrative and cinematic pretty much at the same level, because the second thing which comes into my mind is consistency. It's very important. Like it's more important than any formal kind of documentation. It's consistency between your game style, your game rhythm, your game. The way you're engaging your player, and narrative and visual storytelling. Because if you have absolutely stunning like cinematics and you have a game which doesn't have that amount of action or rhythm, it would suck. It would never work.
So it sounds like you want to sync the tone between what's going on during the normal gameplay and then the tone that the cinematics that are like the rewards that the player works towards at the end of each level. Make sure that
Yeah. And
it's a collaborative process.
Of course, and if you try to, usually specialists in this area have some sort of like background, which will you understand, which will make you easier to understand what to expect from them. Because if you ask a horror maker, cinematic designer to your toon, I don't know, beautiful toon game, you will have a beautiful toon game with weirdly appearing horror style cutscenes normally. So you'll have to find the person which will fit your style.
Okay, so it's just understanding more the story that needs to be told rather than receiving a list of like things to understand about cinematic. You just want to be more interwoven in the greater narrative.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And I would just add on top of that one advice for the developers: never treat your cutscenes as something which you would add in the very end of your production. Instead, think how you would integrate and iterate them, starting from very scratch, starting from very simple, I don't know, sketches which you just put into the places in the game. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble in the end of your production cycle if you just try to add the cutscenes and cinematics after all the other work would be done. So think about it as an integral part of the process, not something, not a cherry on top. It's just one of your ingredients, and you must add it in a proper time from the beginning to make it look nice. Well, personally, I have nothing against Blender itself. As a 3D artist, I do some stuff and even concept arts with the help of Blender. So it's a great tool. And for it's, I don't think it's ever possible to create a cutscene, because as we discussed earlier, the cutscene is an integral part of your game, which is done within the game engine, basically. But speaking about cinematics, yeah, it could be everything. It could be Freedom Max, my whatever. For Cinema 4D, it can be I don't know, cutscene, which cinematic, which is built on two D layers in Adobe After Effects or something, and it would be still a cinematic, which comes from other software, and which is integrated in your game when you need this kind of tool to tell your story. Well, cutscenes are expensive, and cinematics are mostly even twice more expensive or 5 times more expensive for YouTube projects. So like this amount depends on your budget firstly, but it's can tell that like there's choice, like should I use cutscene or cinematic here, but when you have to show your story, just to cut in, break in, and show that something is changing. Uh, you can use cinematic for trailers. You can use cinematic for the beginning of the game, for final of the game. But cutscenes are like something which is combined with your gameplay, and then they add uh, add add some action to your gameplay. They help you to move the player to the specific position. They're helping you mostly. So and it depends on your game style. Like games like Witcher or Cyberpunk, they're built differently right now. They're using these different techniques and more complicated techniques without limiting the player movement. But normal classic storytelling techniques usually combine both. So. Uh, well, you can exercise and just create a simple still. It's called stillmatic. If you're at least somehow familiar with 3D engines, you'll just need a doll. You can do it like you can do it using I don't know your toys in you from your bedroom, or you can use it like make some doll, take doll from Unreal Engine on or a Unity character, and just create a small dialogue between two characters with beginning, middle, and some outcome in the end. It could be like 30 seconds, but this is the great try to use just still images and just combine them in a sequence, and you see how that builds up all together. Because remember that the main thing is that two frames, like 1+1 in the movies and or cinematics, is free, because two pictures together are creating a third meaning. Yeah, just very shortly that most of the times you will be assigned some kind of test work if you try to go into the industry, and they would just give you the script for it. It would be like 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minute script, and will be basically the same. You would have to make the stillmatic or small animatic, and that's how they determine if you are good fit for the job. Oh, the words of wisdom. Always think about consistency. Always think what would be the best fit for your game style, for your game genre. Look into examples, so learn references. If you want to make a trailer or a cutscene, try to look to other guys, and try not to follow just simple the first solution which comes to your mind. Try to be creative and brave to explore new techniques. Thank you so much, Willem.